The 12th of September, 1982, two police officers took advantage of their vacation to go hunting in a mountainous area of Alaska. This place is remote, accessible only by plane or boat. Except for some hunters, there is almost no human presence here. After a day of hunting, the two realized it was getting late, so they decided to return to camp. On the way back, they had to cross a swamp, and as they walked, they noticed a boot floating on the water ahead, which looked very out of place. Only when they got closer did they realize it wasn't just a boot. A human leg bone was attached beneath it. As police officers, they understood the importance of preserving the scene. So, after marking their location on the map, they reported the matter to the local police station. Unexpectedly, the case turned out to be connected to one of the most terrifying serial murder cases in U.S. history. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zima Investigation Bureau. I'm Zima. After receiving the report, the police quickly found the victim's body based on clues provided by the two officers and discovered a .223 caliber bullet at the scene. This type of bullet is commonly used in hunting rifles. After forensic examination, it was confirmed the victim was female with 3 gunshot wounds on her body, making murder almost certain. But strangely, no corresponding bullet holes were found on her clothing. This led to the speculation that the woman was likely nude when shot and the killer dressed her after death. Additionally, the forensic team found some medical bandages in the victim's pocket and, based on how they were wrapped, suspected they were used by the killer to blindfold the victim during the crime. Weeks later, using the victim's dental records, the police identified her as a local woman named Shirley Morrow. Shirley was 23 years old and worked as a stripper, reported missing 10 months prior. Before her disappearance, she confided in a friend that a man claiming to be a professional photographer had paid her $300 to model for him, and after meeting this photographer, she was never seen again. The police have strong reason to believe this so-called photographer is the real culprit. However, they have no leads on this person, so they decided to make the case public and ask for tips from the public. At the media press conference, a reporter asked the police whether this case was related to some unsolved cases that had occurred in the area before. It turned out that Shirley was already the 3rd female body found in the area in the last 2 years. One of the bodies was too badly decomposed to be identified. According to the forensic expert, the victim was possibly only in her teens, and another body was confirmed to be 4-year-old Joanne Messina. Coincidentally, like Shirley, she was also a stripper from Anchorage. Although the police stated there was no evidence indicating a connection between the 3 cases, many officers privately disagreed. The reason was that over the years, missing person cases in Anchorage had shown a significant upward trend, most of whom were young women whose professions were either strippers or prostitutas. However, due to lack of direct evidence, the official stance still treated these cases as separate incidents. In the following year, neither Shirley's case nor the previous 2 homicides made any progress. Meanwhile, the number of missing women in Anchorage continued to rise. On June 3, 1983, early that morning, the police received a report. A pickup truck driver claimed he was driving on Anchorage's highway when he suddenly saw a woman without pants or shoes running toward him on the highway. She was waving frantically as she ran, looking very panicked. So the driver stopped the car. After the car stopped, the woman didn't even speak to him, but opened the back door and jumped in. Then he saw her crouch on the back floor, hiding her head behind the front seat, clearly trying to avoid someone. Only then did the driver take a closer look at the woman and realize she was only in her teens, wearing nothing on her lower body and had handcuffs on one hand. The driver asked what had happened, but the woman was too scared to speak clearly. She only urged the driver to start driving quickly Although the driver didn't see anyone suspicious nearby, he immediately started the car and drove away from the area. The woman pleaded. The driver took her to a nearby motel. So the driver brought her to a nearby motel and let her off. After getting out of the car, the girl immediately ran into the motel. The front desk staff saw a girl wearing gloves but without pants or shoes, who rushed in a panic and immediately called the police, then gave the girl a room, letting her stay inside temporarily. A few minutes later, the police arrived at the scene. They knocked on the girl's door, and the door was opened just a crack. The girl peeked her head out, looking very frightened. The police asked her some basic information. The girl's name was Cindy Paulson, and she was only 17 years old at the time. When the police asked her what had happened, Cindy told a terrifying story that sent chills down everyone's spines. Cindy was a street prostitute. The night before, she was soliciting business on the street as usual. At that moment, a car stopped in front of her, and inside sat a man wearing glasses with a scruffy beard. After asking her about the price, the man decided to purchase the service and asked Cindy to get in the car. Cindy said the man looked quite refined, so she got into the front passenger seat without any suspicion. But as soon as Cindy got in the car, the man pulled out a gun and took control of her, then put gloves on her. The man drove her to an upscale neighborhood, and after parking, he took Cindy into one of the houses. After entering, the man directly took Cindy down to the basement where the lighting was dim. Cindy saw an iron chain hanging from the middle of the room, making it especially eerie and terrifying. Then the man tied Cindy's hands and feet and hung her on the chain and proceeded to assault and humiliate her in various ways, including punching and kicking her, with the whole ordeal lasting several hours. Later, the man probably got tired and told Cindy he was going to take a nap, warning her not to even think about escaping. If he found out she tried to escape or call for help, he would kill her immediately. So Cindy had no choice but to comply. Thus, Cindy was left half naked, hanging on the chain for several hours. Finally, the man returned to the room again. This time, he unlocked Cindy's handcuffs and dragged her to the living room. Here, the man proudly showed Cindy many trophies from his hunts. He talked endlessly to Cindy about how much he loved hunting. At that moment, Cindy suddenly realized a problem. This man in front of him had no intention of letting him leave alive, because this man, openly seeing his appearance, even brought him into his own home and talked so much about himself. Cindy knew he had to wait for the right chance to desperately escape. Only then would there be a sliver of hope. So from that moment on, he began to watch closely for every possible escape opportunity. After showing Cindy all the trophies, the man took Cindy back into the car. Then they arrived at a nearby small airport where private planes were parked. The man said his plane was right there, and next he would take Cindy to his cabin in the forest. After the man helped Cindy onto a small plane, he began loading various hunting rifles and ammunition onto the plane. Cindy knew this was his last chance. Once the plane took off, there would be no escape. So, while the man turned to carry the guns, Cindy jumped off the plane, then started running desperately. After just a few steps, Cindy heard the man chasing after him, shouting loudly that he would kill him. Cindy ran forward recklessly, spotting a forest near the airport. He ran headlong into it without looking back. Beyond the forest was a highway, and right there, he met the kind pickup truck driver. After hearing his story, the police were very shocked. At first, they were skeptical about Cindy's bizarre experience. They still had doubts. But when the police asked him to describe some details in depth, like the appearance of the criminal, the layout and furnishings of his home, and so on, Cindy was able to answer very specifically without any contradictions in his story. That's when the police had no choice but to believe his experience. When the officers asked, taking him to the hospital for a detailed checkup, Cindy said it was okay, but first take them to the hangar. Maybe the plane hadn't taken off yet. From this, it's clear that Cindy was truly very brave. If it were an ordinary person, After experiencing such a terrifying event, they might dread returning to the crime scene and try to avoid it at all costs. But he took the initiative to return just to catch the criminal as soon as possible. After assessing his physical condition, the police approved his request. Cindy, relying on her memory, successfully located that airport and identified the suspect's hangar. When the officers approached, they found the plane was indeed still parked inside, but the man who attacked him was nowhere to be found. Then, the officers began recording the plane's identification detail. At that moment, the airport security guard came over, saying he saw the police investigating this plane, and the night before, he had noticed the plane's owner acting suspiciously, lurking around the car, doing something secretive. So, he secretly noted down the man's license plate number, then he gave the plate number to the police. After investigation, they found the plane and car belonged to the same person, a man named Robert Hansen, a local from Anchorage. He runs a bakery in downtown, which is said to be very popular. After taking Cindy to the hospital, the police decided to go to Hansen's house to gather more information. When they arrived at Hansen's home, they saw Hansen just returning by car, and the officers noticed Hansen's car matched the description of the suspect's car given by Cindy, the same model and color. After Hansen got out of the car, the police took a good look at the man in front of them and realized he completely matched Cindy's description of the suspect. However, when Hansen saw the police standing at his door, he didn't panic at all. Instead, he calmly approached them, asking what they wanted. This caught the officers by surprise because normally a real criminal, when seeing the police, even if not running away immediately, would at least look very nervous. But this man before them was very composed and calm. So the officers said they wanted to ask him some questions and asked if they could come inside to talk. Hansen didn't hesitate to invite the police into his house. Upon entering, the officers scanned the house and found the layout matched Cindy's description. The house was filled with hunting trophies everywhere. So far, the descriptions matched with hunting trophies displayed all around the house. So far, the vehicles, house, and people Cindy identified all perfectly matched Hansen's, which greatly increased the credibility of his drawings. Then the police asked Hansen where he was the previous night and what he was doing. Hansen answered without hesitation. The previous night, he was partying with some friends. He also provided contact information for those friends. Then the police said, "Could we take a look around your home?" Hansen readily agreed. So the police searched his house, but found no expected evidence. After the preliminary check showed nothing unusual, the police left. After returning to the station, they immediately contacted Hansen's friends. His friends all said Hansen was indeed with them the night before last. In other words, Hansen had a clear alibi. So, between Hansen and Cindy, one of them must be lying. The officers then found Cindy and asked if he was willing to take a lie detector test, but Cindy refused. This might be hard to understand for some, thinking if he wasn't lying, why refuse the test? Actually, from Cindy's perspective, it's not hard to understand. After all, his profession is a prostitute, and this identity makes him very untrustworthy in the eyes of the police. His credibility is very low. Moreover, Cindy probably sensed, when the police came to talk to him a second time, the distrust in their tone. So, with insufficient evidence, the police gave up further investigation into Hansen. After Cindy learned this, he quickly left the town. However, everything took a major turn on the 2nd of September, 3 months later. That day, a group of construction workers were working near where the 3 female bodies had been found before. While digging, they discovered some suspected human remains. They immediately reported it to the police. The police examined the remains, confirming they belonged to a human female who died from multiple gunshot wounds. Finally, through dental records, the police identified the deceased as Toyu Wunyang, who went missing 5 months ago in Anchorage, a 17-year-old Paula Goulding. Near the remains, they also found a .223 caliber bullet. They compared this bullet with the one Shirley secretly discovered earlier, So they compared this bullet with the one initially secretly discovered by Shirley, conducting a ballistic comparison. The results showed they came from the same shotgun. From that point on, the police officially linked these cases and treated them as a serial murder investigation. As the case escalated, Robert Hansen, the only suspect the police currently had, once again became the primary focus of the investigation. However, the police, lacking direct evidence, could not search Hansen's property. So they turned to the famous criminal profiler John Douglas for help. Criminal profiler John Douglas profiling involves analyzing crime scenes, behavioral patterns, and other clues to infer the psychological traits and lifestyle habits of the offender. After carefully studying the details of Shirley and Paula Am, Douglas gave his conclusion. The offender is likely a man in his 40s, with healthy social relationships, successful in his career, possibly owning his own business, getting along well with those around him, and respected by others, appearing no different from an ordinary person. At the same time, he is an avid outdoor sports enthusiast, especially fond of hunting. He most likely suffers from a severe speech impediment, such as unclear articulation or stuttering. When the police saw this report, they were utterly shocked because Robert Hansen almost perfectly matched all the conditions described. Based on this report, the police applied to the court for a search warrant. Considering Douglas's high reputation in criminal profiling, the court quickly approved the search warrant. With the search warrant in hand, the police immediately searched Robert Hansen's residence. This time, they made a major discovery. First,